For the latest news and updates on Tibet, subscribe to Yarloon YouTube channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell icon.
Oh yeah. 당한 좀 많이 뒤주 쉬우쉬우 민두 양에게 토갈래 직 처리 치도 등에 벽에 남겸 리서를 삼을러. Is it okay? Nice. 예, 캔슬 다 단기 먼저 지속 내단 시합을 봐. ngayan dine logu dine ta pegawe maybe some people are also interested like me wa nga chunjung gane mi gemba jo keje shedu sama diti del deche ni nye pegawe and this really helps because dine keje nye chin and that you create that imagination because just like you I have never seen Tibet nga pyo tonyo marwa so nga kadu ine pyo gi sanjam la ya dwe tabji chigoyo 강도 ngema lachen ki natula open up to this sambala 당에 this 계절 mix 셰샤고 kanzo 코데야 주네 양의 벽에 깡깡 잡아 있는 쌍만장의 개발에 겁도 맞추는 초스케미도 디인디 나들랄레 치메이 아니 펜스네다 별 봤다야 마두치기 지약해면도 last August 라달 치메이 녜마 아루나철 붐랄 치메이 붐라야 아루나철 게이트나 따왕 파조를 표여와 아니 라다기 카지 산잠네 we drove for about 15-20 kilometers on the border and 파조 다가나라 인더스키 파조 다가나라 베레 수조라 야가와 드네신다 드네신의 수수 emotional need the fulfill 치아마도 지기 샤바 변할 돼 고급니 여마레 대동안 사물로 직벌다 the only thing is I know little more because I read little more I heard little more than you because of my age. And if you pay enough attention, there are always a lot of things to learn every single day. So every single day, I still keep learning. 사자를 루두 참발라 내당한조 칸데레도 상마 균현시니 so 네 가족의 심바이네 엔 그것이 미셔말라 파시에게 뽑아들이기도 와. You gain the confidence to speak about Tibet. 근데 인도 당아주데 아리나로라 당기 가지고 중시엔조 가지고 아리나로라 표반조 칸데슬레버레 여름시에 거린 전부 간제제 된중아주 하코에디 다 내가 충분해. 그래서 sometimes we forget. Now that His Holiness is aging 86 and 점점 여름시에 거린 전부 간제면 하모고 아니 소소롭종 띠스라 셰제 띠스라도 삼발랑 아시우 싱거요 삼르와 아니 무에 내지도 하모고 지도 시도 응아주 지조 나로라 삼주 만다 연구도 와. 다들 뭐가 제시 가지고 싱아주 내주 야가 심이네. the pendochayo 상고도 당아주 political movement 가지고 아메리카 당 페베바라 그때와디 다 미칸데페레 마르페레라이든 내주 직체. There are still a lot of elderly people who lives in the United States to whom you can I think 직동급제 축줄라 폐용에 the earlier than that everybody has died. 1960 라 팽에디 시애틀 단다 푼조프랑기 당모구쇼도와 and her family. Dangmokusho's son was the first Tibetan to be born in US. The newspaper like covered here to do. And they arrived in 1960 Columbus Day kadure. October 26 12 ra. October 12 la konzo pere gyangane su 1960 la they reached Seattle. Did you somebody receive chingedi 인지미지어래 그 데모이나라네 거기 콘조데 슈어래 냐마 따스르미치 1951라 페디 참발레 에어포트라 리시브 칭에디 인지 아메리카 미치어래 공이마 별 대용아들에 코란라 베베밍이어래 그 김에 레 베베밍이어래 그 상황 로비나 동망무여래 디주스마 당아주 political relationship 디 1948라 trade delegation 당보 당도 참발라 자갈라 용 캐나다 치 네 아메리카용 아메리카네 아니 파 잉글랜드 치 UK네 UK네 파 야가 로체 1948라 당경에 July 4th 라 호놀룰루 콘조 조브레 라스와 다 디두 삼발랑 아주 버 란젠 레 데두 we were independent 이네 고민당 슝주어와 고민당 슝기 before the communists were called 고민당 government 고민당 슝기야 ambassador 더 디조게 태주 제제와 디두양 political nature 망부여래 and we tried to buy agricultural industrial kare the machine dene nyoya dang 아니 세르게 데시뉴레 라고 하다. Those stories 중 상말레레 고디 상발레레 레세주 제가 there are so many things to look at, right? ngazul pebal foreign exchange reserve yo hormare dollar yo mare pound yo mare because all trade we used to do through Calcutta from Tibet to Kalimpong because Kalimpong was the major transit trade area for Tibetans and most of the Tibetans don't move beyond Kalimpong but some do up to Calcutta right and tidu ngaju chongge manchejigi wulda ani yak ngama dedang 아니 근데 망차지 종구열이다 대두 선발 아니 디기 폰 콜카타에 export 시기유드 선발라 foreign exchange goes to Indian government so when our delegation went they needed dollar to come to this part of the world and spend right? and dollar 요 말에 아니 야가 슝을 쉬대 오르바 디주드 선명에 탭직 단다 존 케네트 크노스키 탭지 티어레 존 케네트 크노스키 탭디 나노라 근데 럽샤 at that time Indian government gave bumni the chega dollar bumni the chega those days that was a lot of money bumni the chege is selling yoshas peshunki and total it comes to about $475,000 worth of gold that was purchased at that time the permission to buy gold was for $2 million but we didn't have the money so bumni the chega the other 125,000 the 가와네 라레 수유녀레 란즈도 디디 봄다 상냠도 여봐 코란 총바로와 아니 디레치니 콘주녀메 도시아도 라고도 가선 야가 슝고 봄니도 차가마도 때면도 돌아 딘데기 세르도드네 녀에드네 저다디 간주기 first diplomatic relation 베베기 passport 가라 용야기 데네도지 다 팅예랑 예탄기 william woodville rockhill the shuma he was the first ambassador to meet with the Dalai Lama 아니 tendechidu direrochre the 48 ne ma thene yongmaina 1956 we sent 6 people to train as guerrilla fighters and they didn't land here on United States they landed in Saipan Khurang Dungmangbu yore it's just north of Guam in the Mariana Archipelago when they were being trained they were all remnants of Second World War. The Americans killed a lot of Japanese to get that place. The Mangbu Michigo Chala Chubajo Chala Mangbu Dula. What's they do see that Tanda Jadusang Nami de New York La Yorba. They worked very hard. Jadusang Nami Pekale Gayore, Pene Kale Gayore, Dele Kale Gayore, Payule Kale Gayore. 야두상 콘주 요리 아니 리타 아다 요리 로세세 되는 땅에 명창만 챙기면도 이네 콘주 주나로네 숨니한테 명챙기도 아니 로세다 리타 아다니 사미엘 드롭체와 펠라 that was in 1957 도바레 진주 파치 아니 야두상 콘주마 캄라마 드롭체레 에어 드롭체 Tidu Sambala, there were no good relations between the United States and India. There was better relations between the United States and Pakistan. And Bangladesh at that time was East Pakistan. So we had to send, our people had to cross the Mahanadi in secrecy. And tine Bangladesh ki Dhaka north wane kyanzo tepchik tanda CIA in Tibet chik yore William Conboy singach Conboy di chida Google chida di tepde ragre. Tasa mangbu chongaedo James Conboy ta Kari Kenneth siya ni yor joint authorship, but one guy had already died. So these books are really worth reading. Because Pöbarang Tigyo Marwa. Pöbarang Tidu Sambala Sususu Woshun de Mangbuti, and it's sometimes not very fair narration of the events those days. And Tanda, you have access to a lot more declassified documents from the State Department. In Sama Yudu Sambalata, James Conboy Kunju Tebdi Naulala. But Mik Kadule Kawala training show Sangmayore. The first batch was in Saipan in 57 la and Camp Peary, then the Washington DC Chilol, Maryland area la. Ducheni Camp Peary le training show. Camp Peary and next they were taken to Colorado because the Colorado landscape is very similar to Tibet. Dinal Dungpe Manguyore Pepanzo misfire chi log targu meratang burn che fire department yongalani it was supposed to be a secret operation right? Today, drawing Joe than a mangoyore. So the day lobby in James Conboy Nanola Mangoy. If you read that Conboy's book, Pebe Ming Shashing Mare, Cousin Peba Sangmala Konzo Mingdo Tashadwa, Tanangazo Dig, Mike, Chikjila, Edwa, Ed, Lado, Mangutado, Pebale, Ming, and the Tasha. So if you compare Conboy's book with Tanda Tungil Hamstringla, who used to be assistant to Jalutundu, elder brother of His Holiness, Dinala and Pebe Ming Samayorta. Pebe mi batch Kaju Tang Yore Curriculum airdrop Reginala Jala Karikari and Sama Tior Dinanola. Airdrop Saja Kavala Chiore, weapons Karikari, Sangma, Diu Tangane Chini Sama. Dingini compared China, then you get a complete picture of the CIA operations inside Tibet and training programs in the United States. Tineche and Tine the Jela Pavadi Mustang la guerrilla warfare the Konjupege camp Suyatan this she and only after China invaded India in 1962, then only India woke up to the reality. Then we started American, Tibetan, and Indian. Delhi la Saket la Sajajur, South Delhi la. Delhi ya Sumde Leguns nani. Then this office Nangrabu residence do. That's why John Kenneth Kno's book is also important because he was the first CIA representative. John Kenneth was also involved in teaching history to the Tibetan guerrilla trainees. Sobu Geshe Wange, whom I was talking about, he came to United States in 1955. In 55, they created this Tibetan Morse code. Sangwegi signal times to Tenzin Tandaine Tibetan Morse code Pejandango Konjusu Yodre, Captidune. Tine 56, 57, it went on up to that Rokochian, the America Shungi, CIA Rokochian, it went up to 68, and Tine, that it was not tenable. Tichini in Konjugi, Pesha Rokochia, the Kalekale Zamsha, because then America was warming up to China. You heard about Henry Kissinger, right? Kissinger, he was responsible, he was supposed to be responsible for opening up China to the whole world. And then Mao Zedong, Kissinger, Nixon, Konzodus, Dewachani, then Tibetan issue was relegated to the sidelines. And Tenzin Namgyala came in around that time. Before that, Pinzo Tundala was the representative. Pinzo Tundala is still in New York. If you are interested, you can still go to meet him. Sonamundi Shagapa is also there. Sonamundi Shagabala, Sonamundila 1965 to Aliyonre. Because we sent a batch of Tibetans to learn English and also management, accounting, and those in Cornell University in Ithaca. This and our took training te Consular Labda Lobjon te Washington Yachi Yong, Sigoto in the Chi, India taken back. Wisconsin, like Kesan Takla, as a former minister of Department of Information International, she was also one among them. Pumuchigan Tigretu, Kesan Takla, and she later became secretary, the representative of His Holiness in Taiwan and London, minister later. And those they are still living. So Saguduala Tevi Narwa, Hakure. In 1972, in fact, the office of Tibet here in New York at that time, which was Losan Singla Galan Tibet Washington DC, the Mabe Padachiki daily was 64 nation. 1964 registered Chabanation. In a cup to do get to enjoy the Gon Liusha came in 63. And Tidu Konza Drungmang Boyer and the Boston and Tangi Palaji Shuba Johnson, President Johnson, the Yigiting. He didn't know Koran Pyoge, Inji, I was shingy Yamare. Then Koran Drung de Penning Joyer, and the Boston Konza Nangmi Tepchit, and Boston Nano Pebaleberg Tepchet. Then Tidu Konza Mikashish Madi Yomare Ngatush, Shagapa's son was here. I think 2 sons. One was working for Pan Am. 1967, the first batch of Lumberjacks, when they arrived here, they were mobbed by American media, and then they were airlifted from New York to Boston to work for the Great Northern Paper Company, Lumberjacks. And in Konzo Dongning Jugudin Shegdo, the Lumberjacks were mostly from Quebec area, French speaking, into the main area. Main la Konzo Tanzo Yoruba, Tag Shingpul Chigurwa. Shingpul Chidu some French things who catch tang ne couple chick shoes some Konzo Takta or do to that distance. That Pebazo Shuro, that Doro Chigmund, they come on, she machine. They did Dung Manguyore, and the first lady, Tanda Pennsylvania, Dua. Amla khasa organization la ko pingyati khasi amla jik video na jik sung shu dwa nga nyama 63 ne chinenga civil servant yin la ne pela ama Jomadembala was the first woman in Maine. She's still living. She's here today in New York. Tin samala kon sama yore. So I interviewed all these people. Kon Maine ne ma tyo on samala yang the paper, there were some marketing issues or quality issues. And paper company goyache samba and pevanzo did compromise majeviche konzo drosha. No GPS, nothing. Tidu GPS yomarwa. And konzo bad change kandar kashe Boston de kashe New York le. Some of them rode from here East Coast to West Coast. Because two young students. Anthropology. Konzungema payul change payugi mirikda jogi go chege dan su chege dan anthropology na mangu chigu gorwa payul pa drama to konzubesha yomarwa and pebal lebles dan sawana tömerwa. So they came from West Coast to Maine. Yang konzu pebal zunyamdo dicheni konzu dawa gashi pege den konzu 원심 차버와. One of those boys uncle had a wood factory in Portland area. And but across America they drove some of them. He was also one of the second batch in 1969, I think. Then West Coast a lot of stories. Politically, I read in James Conboy's book that in 1959, we sent Rinjen Sandusang and Shagaba to represent us in the United Nations, 1959. And then the first resolution was adopted by the United Nations on Tibet in 1959, the second in 1961, and the third in 1965. Dige 상말랑 아주 러비치가 망불레비어. 콘조 디마도 디디 배워시다 요마르와. 디네치니야 political relations UN 냠도 디네치 디주 디테일즈 로나 벤닝주들이 요중. 디디 콘조 순가게 포사르레 슌슌레 smartly dress. 배워 인지게 장은 벤용용으로와 디디 디네치니 콘조 디네 레비어레. 안 디네다 CIA 단들 상마치 디디 아주 뉴욕 오피스 당 New York office was started by CIA. Registration. Someone considered Robocher, Peshato, someone considered Robocher. The Office of Geneva. This was meant more for political advocacy work. And the other office in Geneva, which was started in the same year, was also established for cultural propagation. And today, Dilila, the Tibet House, 1965 established. CIA but when Kissinger and Nixon warmed up with Mao, then they asked us to close our office here in New York. But Tinsadamjala came and the Kunzugi Gojagmes, and Indian government stepped in to support us. Tichini and the USTC, like the US Tibet Committee, Canada Tibet Committee, like this someone and so now do down Kuzu Pevakashi Yotan and Peva Jabjo Chinga to do USTC the nation goes over. It was started like that. And Tine Dipara Delangaduta CIA relationship lare, because the CIA stopped funding us. There was no political relation, and we were trying to create grassroots support. And Pernalol 87, 88, Tananga, Ganzo Guchusum Sokpalangan, Tanamsala Yoa, Haku Yoa, Guchusum Lady, 1987 September, 88 March, because the 1987 October, 88 March tigedila Guchusum, this named after these 3 months when peaceful demonstrations erupted inside Tibet. 가능해 가버렸다 Guchusum 소가디. 딱 하나 87, 88에 되는 충두 삼아 당에 the story the mix up 치료도 건다. 1959라 UN approach 치료 삼발라 티두 삼발라 it's written there Christian Jewish Cultural Center chigi 겨울음치라 invitation 피야 쳐래. Because nobody knew about Tibet. The only thing they know is little bit information about Tibet in the encyclopedia. And El Salvador that is 당분간들 move 칭에 로카칭에 들어와. But behind the scene, US is always there. 대주도 진대갑네 내주 총리 아니 디두이 가서 양 건조 갈럽드스나 다람살라기 겨울음치딩 가서 추족이 구디지고 mass not just religious leader because this invitation is coming from Jewish Christian cultural center in Chigidi Chusamala. Connotation is that His Holiness is more a religious leader, right? People are not interested about talking about Eisenhower 딩에라 담살라서 야갈치래 59 그 디셈버도 디두 삼발라 겨울음치던 제제나야기 탑시지 제월에 있는 야가슝 가와잡레스타 데레라고도 템즈나데 티샤. But there are no other details in other documentations that we can refer to. 1960라 군딘 수된데 슈에치도 다람살라 그 겨울음치에 된 아주 최적을 이르지고 매스 political leader is 게시표베이나 신진 제대나야 주고 요스인데 Jewish Christian Cultural Center 디 don쇼 당대 삼발라 건조기 여름제 추된데 슈 아니 최적의 임바도셰 and Eisenhower was supposed to drop in to see His Holiness. But our people didn't see the significance, the political significance of such a meeting if that had happened at that time. Right? 디마톰체 아니 아주 군주 집이나토 요만. 다 군주 집이나 여름제 당보 치겔 집이나에 독주를 숨데 발이야. Thailand 도 집이나므로와. Then 10 years after that, His Holiness traveled to Europe in 1973. His Holiness' first visit to United States was 1979. It was Jimmy Carter's government. The Jimmy Carter government now the Joel McCleary language. He's still there in Washington D.C. Joel McCleary was working because he was one of the campaign leaders, so he was working in the White House, and His Holiness' visa was pending, and then they informed State Department embassy love gurwa. Tim alav che Joel Konjo ki sharja jaga embassy khawatan che visa trek reslamni visa trek race. Then China got very angry after that, of course. Jimmy Carter, when he was the president, he didn't meet with His Holiness. So one of our oldest friends is also Senator Feinstein, Dan Feinstein. Feinstein was, I think, came to Dharamsala around 1978. 1978, only 79, Senator Feinstein was the mayor of San Francisco. And kundu chiwin tidung anju first ayu amare pege West Coast the Seattle diche pyo branch and tine chozo khaji chiore tine the East Coast la New Jersey la sogu geshi onge ge chozo da dine dujun tandage kyanju New Jersey chimba ina pege sogu geshi sumiore because Kalmykians, they were moved to the United States in 2 batches. First one, right after Second World War, they stayed in Philadelphia area. So you see quite a number of Kalmykians in that area. The later batches came to the New Jersey area. So Kalmykians, I visited all the 3 monasteries. Party chigo mandoche. Zamzam take a tour to all these places and understand history. From tech companies from garage to tech gurus la from garage to nirvana also started his first Buddhist association in New Jersey from a garage that was rebuilt. Seattle they started from a garage. Then His Holiness came back again, once, sometimes twice in a year, sometimes 3 times in a year, because His Holiness was young, energetic, and then he found that Congress in the United States is very powerful. So in 87, he made the 5-point proposal the full house, it was just the Human Rights Caucus. At that time, Tom Lantos was living. Right now, the Human Rights Commission is named after him, after his death, the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission. So Tom Lantos, the leadership kashichiyor, that the Ming the Samalongan, Tata Chengimido, Tandaringa. Konzo dige tuche, Tidu Samanganzo Senate na Mikashichi, House na Mikashichi, Yomare, Pevala Jabjo Chengakra. Tinanglone Chick Nancy Pelosi. She was a very young girl at that time. And from that time, she continues to support Tibet today. The impact is so much that it remains with the people for lifelong. They become lifelong friends. Because of His Holiness. I traveled around the world. Yaurum Chege, Dusin Kule, 85 la, Human Rights Caucus, the Disundu Sambala, Kasure, 87 la, Human Rights Caucus, the Kalov Nandu Sambala, Trezo Kong and Jabjo Chunju Madioman. Then 89 la, Yaurum Che Nobel Peace Prize, Radio, and then he became Kasure, very well known. And Teenage in Tanda Michik Don Chia, Voice of America, Truya, again. Pebala Jabjochia, the Shini Gotsu Berta opened up. In 1991, His Holiness met with the first sitting president, Bush Sr. In 1991, I think it was on 16th April 1991. Tinechila Jaurum Cheta, Bush Sr. Ni Jede Chumbare. And from then on till Trump, Sinji Tsanglo Kundi Jabarwa, DJ. 1991 was declared as the International Year of Tibet. And there were only about 500 Tibetans in the whole of North America, including 238 Tibetans that were moved to Canada from 1972-73. Awareness create if you look at what people did those days, so now leadership Namjela was there from 73 to 87. That was followed by Rinjit Halula from 87 to 94-5. They are still here in New York. He was there this morning. Function on this issue, Somalia, the nation in Tunjuta, the man Los Angeles, the Congressman La Payor, Los Angeles Payor, Los Angeles do Simba, that do Cheney, and Teneta, Ngai, Logida Dawsum, and leadership changed Chigi. Tinzamjela moved back to Dharamsala because His Holiness decided to Chidu Tang Kashaniga Kudunanche. He was looking for more democratization, His Holiness. Did you do? Tenzin Namgyala became a minister, minister of the interim cabinet at that time in 1990, and then Gyari Rinpoche replaced him here. And Gyari Rinpoche replaced him in 91 nation, the 2012 Padu Rinpoche Devarwa, their special envoy being Kiche. And then they really worked very hard. Teaching as far back as 1997, the first special coordinator for Tibet was appointed. 1997, even before the US Tibet Policy Act was adopted. Then there were a lot of developments in 2000. 2000, China became part of WTO because of Clinton support. Right? And China and US signed a trade deal, which is a long name. It's for other countries, it's free trade deal. But this is China, US trade, bilateral trade. So because of that, this institution called the Congressional Executive Commission on China, this is bicameral, body who is responsible for bringing out human rights report in China, including Tibet, Uyghur, Hong Kong, Taiwan. There's some Taiwan the human rights report even now they bring out this report every year by July. The document, these are the documents that Congress people rely on for information, because this is a product of US Congress report. CECC the dine go to Tatna the Pebeko one main platform is Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission. The other main platform is CECC. So when we need hearings to be held, briefings to be held, then we approach these. Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission tang CECC niga co-chair chikdi Massachusetts ki Congressman Jim McGovern pay award me we have no time, we have to push then US Congressional Gold Medal Kazangazo Penchirumchi reception they organized to December Congresswoman Ileana Ross Latinen was there. She was one of the person to move that bill in the House to grant His Holiness the US Congressional Gold Medal. She was one among the many. And House le move chugore, Senate le move chugore. And that this reciprocal access to Tibet bill was already introduced with ICT lead Cheney. Eventually the reciprocal access to Tibet bill act was passed. Now it is a law because reciprocity is the basis of diplomacy or diplomatic relations. It's like going to another country within a country. Tibetan Americans, you should have same right as do any Chinese who come into the United States and go to any parts of China, United States. Tibetan Americans should also have the right to go to Tibet also. That the reciprocity visa this also should become part of that report. The applies Congress they'll take action. On those that and the latest the 2020 Tibet policy Tibet Policy and Support Act the amendment reincarnation main so these are just to give you a brief outline as to how things have been moving with the United States government and what are possibilities for future. And today, this is my first official visit. President Trump ki special coordinator was appointed only on the 4th year. So that leaves us very small space to work with the Trump administration. And it's not like we can't work at all, but when you have a special coordinator for Tibet, then it makes our job much easier, make the job of the representative much easier, because we just have to approach one person and he or she will arrange all the meetings. And they receive His Holiness like any other head of a nation. We don't have to do much. We just inform the DSS, Diplomatic Security Service, State Department. They'll make arrangement everywhere, local police, local DSS, from the federal DSS. That was His Holiness' last visit to the United States. It all started from mid-90s. It has been increasing. Just to give you a outline of our diplomatic relation, And the more you read, Pempadine to Chidu Samalanga, the Chuju, like Kazi, that the Chinati do the Nima Tangbu Tanala. Our first meeting was with Under Secretary Azrazia. The Biden administration, not even 1 year into their office, appointed an Under Secretary. Trump Gutuzula, it was Assistant Secretary. Kanzu di level the Hakuyoba. You have Secretary Blinken, who here it's called Secretary, but in other countries it's called Minister, right? Then you have one Deputy Secretary. Then it depends on whether the government is Democratic or Republican. Republican kabla Deputy Secretary Chikma de Shagayo Marisido. Democrats kabla Ni Shagayo Tange Karshayam Haumas. Now under that there are 6 Under Secretaries. And one of the Under Secretaries, the civilian, the Chiglavedi, Azrazia, Chigo Dilia, Yemani, and a pandemic set to do ballet, special coordinator, Konedi Tigore. Mola Kotsavana, we were waiting for her, we were hoping for her appointment as early as June last year. We had some virtual meeting with State Department, Assistant Secretary level. The Under Secretary Wala, Assistant Secretary, and Deputy Assistant Secretary, and Director, especially remember, if you look at the State Department structure of how the State Department is structured, then you will know what level Karikari Chagu you may sure on those share. And the Under Secretary Kazing to Tangbo Tenjula Sondu Sovere. Tene any ICT yamdo son sovere. DJ Tibet Fund get TSP students yamdo son sovere. Nganzo media request someone more on Tangdolansha. Because Azazayah's ancestry comes from Bihar in India, even though she was born in North Carolina. Indian background she had. And she wants to, it looks like she really wants to do something and achieve something during her special coordinatorship. 가진가도 추저직 시간 손소 시계를무체 벤저를무체 중간에 사망가도 빠른 냠도 겹 아니 든 사마체 가지고 one-on-one meeting went on for 1 hour. So after that we had a short break, and then she also helped organize a luncheon for us to meet with the ambassadors from 7 different countries. And logu this chance na 공게 된적에 대식 가진 the Samne, because I left Lithuania, Lithuanian ambassador was there. So what is our connection with Lithuania? Because Lithuania is Eastern Europe, right? Or Dorong Arab Yila Pegapedo. Ngamangan Tenjujik, Kong Tenjujik. Or Duchis Samala Lithuanian, we have this conference called the World Parliamentarians Convention on Tibet. So where parliamentarians who support the cause of Tibet come from different parts of the world and meet. And that platform was created when Professor Samdong Rinpoche was the Speaker of the Parliament way back in 1994 in India. The second World Parliamentarians Convention was held in Lithuania, and the co-host, a member of the Lithuanian Parliament, I still remember her name because she later became a member of the European Parliament, and we came in close contact. Her name is Lama Andrikane. Nye tige de labi ba. Nye yung wala Lithuania tizang adu dewa tile chagi yore. Lama, she's still in the National Parliament as part of the Foreign Relations Committee. So adu shunga drobe in dewa de yoyo barba. Tine che any UK Deputy Chief to UK gade adu nyong sabure. Tanda term sovereignty, suzerainty. Dinzo songon songen UK rwa. UK ki British India nganzolo dewa ma chebe che gananyam do dewa chebe derwa 1890s to. The first agreement that was signed between the UK and the Chinese government was what is called the Shefu Convention. Shefu Convention di nanglo liya pyo nanglo exploratory team ji tangyan liya katwe tero chistane gyami katwe tero chistane pyo la shuma le samba pyo katwe matebra yonga yomare pyo la keja matibiche khonzu ta jugro nganzo pyo di pyo nang de yore pyo la keja matibiche gyana ta injini keshen ta jugyo pyo kol. That you have this whole lot of things about the Great Game, how Tibet became a victim of Russian. That means someone Russian ema. Peba simgire some because there are a lot of sphere of influence like that. So the great game is supposed to have come to an end by 1906 when that final agreement was signed. So you have the Afghanistan, Iran side influence, Tibet and the region that there's a sphere of influence manguji koshki ashar France nanola. Right, imperial colonialism is shukshumurba. Oh, Kawalestanya Drunzo. Tinde da cheje kandar inji shung da chimbaina ani suzerainty laide 1906 ki dinalo suzerain one china inji ki ngazol chigdong gubje sumshilo young husband expedition ge pelo ma jabarwa lasabodo yomorwa on tinde ge ni ju yore ani kran US embassy UK dile tilabayi tene shemba dile bena Denmark Danish tu ha ro Danish Denmark ro Denmark ke didu Denmark ina ngazo pheba mangbuchi ngema training le tangbare nurse ki training da chick skilled in the mechanical that the some of them went even sent to Iran for training that the kanzo hakos chewaina kan mangbuchi ha고는 고기요 말에 Iran 당한zo 그 제와드네 여러와 어디신 Denmark la thangbo ngazo mi mangbuchi training tane my father-in-law was also one of them right 단대 mi mangbuyo Denmark la tangyo Sweden moved. That's the reason why we still have Tibetan communities in Denmark, very few numbers. And the Tibet charity ranching. La Lagaramchira, Lagaramchit in the Denmark, Shuyore, in a people, Misama Shuchiamare. Tine, any Norway, Sweden, Dusheni, Scandinavian and Lebanon, the Dushin Ligiore. Anting is considered Shungsabzole, Tushin Lavi, Swiss to Chimbaina, was a petrology program yore. And in France, do Rakaza ambassador, was Dushini. Even the small talks help, like, oh, you are well informed. Some good about Konzoki, Lojuk Tone. One the nation ambassadors, Yam the Zomedi. Under Secretary Zia, Special Coordinator, arrange share the charisma. Now we have to work with like-minded countries, not just United States, but like-minded countries. Thanks to Russia, now NATO has come together. Nyamaina, ani arita Europe ni tada degiminduwa jawa. Tada jawa yar do some. Then how do we need to push the Tibetan issue, the Sino-Tibet conflict in those areas? She created that platform for us. And the evening, I think Purankawogi, White House ki, National Security Council ki, Indo-Pacific in charge, Kurt Campbell, Tubre. Quran senior rep. The Konzo Lenjendo Reta, and Peggy President la access yorba, Lamsang. This is one Quran le Tube, so we can. Under Secretary Legun Karshido, De Legun, before Kurt Campbell, Matu Ngune, Azrazia Pachinswa, Pegachinja, Kudu Nanku update Chesasha, update Chesasha, and on the evening to do somebody, get a Gua contest to do the Mambo nuance and the Pemo Tayre. And Kranchugo Mare, he brought all his staffs from the section, from the White House. Or this Chini, young at the White House, the 2 Yomada, we met in the State Department. On the nation, we finished that many numbers of meeting. Dipara devale mangucho tanimare. 제일 단단한 데 노산라게 델랩되어 가지고 벤줄링군 레지스티되어 가르치려나 we receive funding. 다 아메리카 법발랑 가지고 비샤 가줄 적이 열려나. 그러나 as of today per nanglola $8 million 적이 열에 now this year it has been increased up to 10 million per nanglola share. But it's becoming increasingly difficult to implement projects inside Tibet. Right? But still so ngajuk ari shunglo khallago yosna kyanzo pyonan lachiwene sugyuni chigiyore kandes chigiyore leshi kharigan chigiyore pen 가주 토구도 면도든 상황한저 학고에는 ngajuk 파 feedback 돼요와 디네치니 메게 DRL nengajo 3 million chigragiyore 다 단다 there are two parallel 3 millions. The American 3 million lana ngaju di chekas madu ragyo marda. Half of that goes back to pay their own consultants, administration and all that. Ngaju saya sum ragyo lana ngaju lagwal saya chekas madu ragyo mare. Ngaju khojogi the agent prime receiver the America registered organization gugudu ha. Dichide ani DRL tanda ni jodeyore. Dizo yan prime receiver chik di IFS dani International Federation of Electoral System la chik ta and chik di tanda NDI National Democratic Institute junior talone chinanga jo saba gochugu yore. That's 3 million per year for the next 5 years. Dukshini di DRLs na democracy, human rights and labor kitinawa. Ta yan PRM la the State Department ya section chik yore population, refugees and migration la. Tinangloni ngadu lotakparish $2.5 million ragiyore. Tigi ngadu payuna yolota ani yaganangloya pene susadu pengeda tinju chengada tadleg mangbuchi twede da legaleya muite shigiyore. And Tibetan resilience di DRL diche. And USAid gi gyune dandapado 6 million ragiyore. Ngadu 6 million ne di Tibet fund gi gyune rayat. Tibet fund gi tanda dedwa New York la. konzo gyune raya di konzo prime recipient re ani ngazo gi social and resource development la di dharamsala la ngazo di sub recipient chagyo on do shine 6 million di ta thalog budget nalola it has been increased from 6 to 8 ti naloni ya kashegi privately shuyung de dwa some other organizations like Tibetan International Digital Library will take about 1 million for the next 5 years. Then it could over. Then it's the Zoe Peveche to the in a Puna Lagache, Puna, Kardu Chetu, somebody do it through the Bridge Fund, Windrock International, based in Arlington, Washington, D.C. Bridge Fund is also based in D.C. To the Virginia University that also gives some part funding to the Boston-based Tibetan Buddhist Resource Center like we are. That is an change Kemi Patron Chirani Tibetan de Kosare. It became Buddhist Resource Center. Now it's called as Digital Buddhist Resource Center. Tirechini that de lo konzo yikcha pe mangoyore. And one of that scholar is Professor Gene Smith, who was a student of Deshung Rinpoche from Seattle. Gene Smith, Konanzo ya Mingdo Tagoyore, Bodhisattva of the West. Ko 벽의 장례. 그냥 로규 주고 members 코 벽의 장례, 벽의 빼아고체. Any Tibet house dharamsala Delhi go to do samala Kona. He was the director of South Asia in Asia and Chigre of the Library of Congress. engé tangi labso William Woodville Rock Hill gi dege kanjur ngajo narthang kanjur dege kanjur ta ju kanjur gi all printed wood block ne yorwa ta tepeje gya na wood block 가져 열어와 on dinde gi print chigo dinde ko tama thangbo Library of Congress the quit jabarwa Rock Hill gi. From then onwards the collection started. Now you have the Zambuling nalone peje penjo nalo tep mangshu tongda chudur sure bebek te chukbo 아니 베게 보스턴 딜 상마 디지타이즈 시니 다디 직내 마동 봐도 till the world ends those material will be there penalol now they are extending beyond Tibetan Buddhism, so they are going into Theravada lana Pali based Buddhism and Sanskrit the Pali based ni chigyorwa Sanskrit the Pali di kewa chishu dikharsna Pali used to be the language during Buddha's time of the common people, so Buddha taught in Pali based on the mental disposition of the people at the lower level. Then the higher level he taught in Sanskrit. You have Tantrayana, Mahayana in Tibet, because our religion is based on the Sanskrit version, the higher level in Laguir. In Mahayana Lagudwa is the higher vehicle light of share. On the day change, the Penzu Mudu, the direction, Tango Tedanzo, Dushin Chigure, and Jagana Manshang as health, education, rehabilitation, Dizugala. Side to the Dushin Rosdanger, Tamriga Shungi Catholic Yore, Kandis League Yore, Maomangazumata. One of the biggest challenge for us right now in the exile community in India and Nepal is the those Tibetans who came in the late 80s, 90s, 2000s. Ta Kangbachi Yomare, such an inch chig Yomare, Jagananola, Kangbachi Yomare. Tadinganzu Katu Chibula, Tangazu programs is survey. Programs we started taking a list of people who need support. As of today, it's 1,999 families. That deal page 30 million studo, Nyungtala, US dollars. So we are trying to seek half from the US government. I don't know whether that will come to fruition or not. Come and choose to sa. The Kuzu Tuish that down of Shigmindua and Yeshesha come and choose there. Doing the Samala, the Neche, Tangazo funding it in the Samala. This time we met with all the departments. And in Norsan Kodo, Norsan Tandos left some Norsan Gate, Tani, Norsan Megadua, Norsan Megad Damsala Lachi, but they'll mean washing your system Haku Yomare. Tism de Yona, that means someone to leadership, someone to do. Next time you know who to reach out to, how to unknot problems. Then so much in it, there's a pependoyer. Because when we talk about empowerment and mil kalatini Jabaswedin Marwa, Yamyon Sajo, Lo Chunganzo. This is Yam the legit Chunganzo, Yam the Tiu and the Yamyon Sayag exposure Kazu Manga Yomene. Yawung some discovery. And in Congress Nanola, we met with Congressman McCall, who is a ranking member in the Foreign Affairs Committee of the House. And Krange Simshumbu Nangazu in the World Parliamentarians Convention, so in Can Perochista, Yinda Insido. And Richard Gay also in Jekran Katuine, Pebal Jabjoshuk Chumburi, Nangima Tunju, in Du Tamani slavery. This time now, when I'm the Sikyong, the hill at Sondu Nimachik Gangzang Kora, as Yam the Devil. McCall to a Shimbri, and Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Bob Menendez, the Tutu Maso. House ki chairman there, Meek Tutu Yomare, he's traveling, but we met with the full house committee staffers. Because the American staffers pe kechumure, leje. Daganalo in a staffers kechumu mare, file kidong down, appointment so in appointment to Stada Yomare, Sab Abini Ayale. Sab Abini Ayale, go there, Chuzum shit and a good there, Pir Aj name Mil Paega, Kain Yaji Lamnia, Saint. To the Nepekale or Yala, I really actually, if they give you time, they meet you on time, whether it's for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour, whatever. So we have to catch legit simgu warta. Because the members are so busy. So legislative assistant that is simba ina and konjugi bill draft chair down to Kia down to someone konju rocket to warta. We have to catch the right people, schedulers, schedulers, you have to catch them. If you are looking for legislation, you have to catch the legislative assistant. Today, Mangbo, and Peba Tananga, the White House, and Lacha, Pomichigarba, and DOJ, and State Department, the more access we have, next time, members took Tananga lobby education. At the federal level, we'll continue to do the same thing that ICT has been doing. In fact, increased participation from states. Now at the state level, New York ne any kinds of Tanglang Kazu Chumba ine and New York tang, New Jersey tang, you have to catch your senators and congressmen, women, house members and so. Reach out to you're talking about 435 members of the House. And you are talking about 100 senators. The Senate, you have to look at who are in the Foreign Relations Committee, who are in the Appropriations Committee. Appropriations Committee, Special Operations Sui, in the House also the same thing. So, biya di one special operations di biya tuna special operations ge subcommittee di chairman the ranking member ni sim tuna an bajin nan le dur lena gangne ka thuma ta 망치야지 도시는 땅 랑가 창마 딱딱 신구거다 가와가와라 도구고면 랑가 마시나 나구나도 처음 되어도 차로라 so we need focused lobbying 단 칸저 뉴욕 에리아에 인바이네 멤버 수수 subcommittee 가기날도 committee 가기날도 라 간졸리 케시슈디 foreign relations 야마나 foreign affairs house senate appropriations house senate 라 아니 human rights related organization Homeland Tours 다 CCC 다 저스탕아 then YouTube, you don't need to catch everybody because countries have different systems. If it's a Senate Foreign Relations Committee, the majority numbers should be around 11 and the minority 10. It's a 21-member committee because you have a one-person majority. This is the committee the mitakta catch tuna ngadu nuba turn to. The committee mi catch tuna. 다 야가도 보이는 것도 가와 가살 투가 누구여래 뒤에서 룸레 튼투 운동 가지고 누버 상마 스캐르찬 포커스 시마투니 아니 가지 가지고 데일리네 단계 루댕기라 소여래 가지고 매핑 체네 스테이트 거기 나올 커미티 미 가와가와 미도 라 인플루언셜 커미티 멤버스 아니 스테이트 가와가와 나는 가지고 법 망아도 라 아니 법 메사 가와도 커미티 멤버 가와도 페더럴 레벨 슈 가리자고도 스테이트 레벨 슈 가리자고도 디체투베이나 아는 아주 스테이트 레벨 내 아주 세네터지 슈마 투구일라나 시경 연구위원회 치리 관련 연구위원회 지du 연구위원회 수 연구위원회 세네터 등에 들을 투구였어 because I know the senator 대신에 즉 고급의 약속을 가르스나 election들이 하우스까지 every 2 years you have to have election for senate every 6 year 1/3 rolling 대신에 정말 election qabla kon정ям도 디스트로트나 volunteer지나 Some people can go with Republicans, some can go with Democrats. 수토베이네르와 중앙 아주 reach out 해요 봐라. 디지스마 아니야 당랑 튼투베이나 레군들에 나올라. 디 세네터이네 하우스 멤버 모시나 주주 가두이네 소주주 여러와. 뭐마시나 야 신이 되어져. 아는 아주 벼백이 가사 아가 당할 하무들만 상주 쟁말하다. 얘네 저지 맞죠? 아니 얘네 대화야고요나 가두이는 혼자 야죠. 안간도 지 고두이 치고 approach somebody you come only when you need us 생각 소리스와. But the good thing in America is that they take care of every constituent. 오tlung에 상마 개춤을 지기도 하고 혼자 그냥 저 강에 가리요와이네 소저 저저 팀의 슈가 도스나 혼자 야고 친다 그래. 얘네 저주 참가디 다 lobby 디 톤에 체투베이나 that doesn't involve too much work. Some are good in speaking, some are good in scheduling, some are good in preparing documents. The ICG training chair. We'll work very closely with ICG, not just here in Washington D.C., but also in Brussels, Amsterdam, and Berlin. CDC in Canada, ADC in Australia. So the dedicated, focused group together. Now, if every single one of us gets engaged, 파워 제네시스 자동 진동 라용도 아니 여름치 파워 제네시스 에는 아주 차례레 독체제 유튜브이나 아니 아주 누가 연봉 레다 코오퍼레이티브 에포트 레다 내용을 만도 지기 nga Sikyong 인스타닝에 다 DC를 가르쳐야 되는 아주 쉬울 봐. 디네시 당 스테이트 상만은 아주 옆 두고 말 봐. 아니 된주이네 된주 당 된주 냠도 팀다 맥시멈 로스팅 아주 US 대밍 nga마도 요 말. That they have to reach out to Canada, they have to reach out to US, 아니 별이 속바 Buddhist associations, 아니 별받은 저 역라 사죠. 안수 나올 두고 잖냐 야마데 대대기로. 근데 좀 뭔가 체 아주 파 러빈 따다다다 제투베는 운행 아주 리절트는 그래. So therefore I seek your involvement and proactive this 제투베나 kansu 당 안주 we consider ourselves as the bridge generation. 참조를 칭해지. The generation before us, they are dying out. 가진가 시절 로니스 대버와 every year, lot more people are dying. 로든주 개주 급줄에 비어되는. 다나가 시작 고래게 되서말라 칸주 if you have seen my tours in the settlements, old age homes 나온 빼먹고도 이제 다도 칼레 통로도 와. 콘조 변에 수립교래 generation. 다디 조르고 상 아주 장아래 로 nga long ab jung ab ding ab ke slep de yore 당아 경고 생각 차되었다. 예 명도 포사르다. 예만은 랍작감네. 당기가 다른 속에 대해 용도 삼아 아주 겐다 포사를 와라겠다. 포사 시경을 하거든. 그녀가네. 누신이 누신 치고 당 안주기 캔슬 지대로 와. 안주랭에 당 안주기 캔슬 지하고 저 맞추는 안주 페일리어로 와. That's why we make it a point to meet the younger generation, to tell you the stories, at least you have some memory to go back to, refer to, read books. Reading is very, very important. Pe keshumre. Malona shingimare. Mig keje di keje tosmas yon sigiri, takta yoba yon sigiri, takta meo yon sigiri. But when you read well-researched book, that tells you the exact story. Ani susugi vocabulary yangar dure stories to share yangar dure. The more you know, then you become more confident in speaking about Tibet. As being free spokespersons for Tibetans inside Tibet, you have to understand what is going on inside Tibet. And through this VTAC, DII, Department of Information International Relations, will be responsible for updating you with information, providing you with information. 독신이 아니 소속의 표정을 시험차. 아니 interest 리기로와. So in the next 2-3 months, we'll be doing a demographic survey of the diaspora community. 디급들의 칸조 쉔게 쪽으로 로고체투웨이나. Because New York is very difficult. Because building signal then sometimes you don't know your neighbor, right? As to how many Tibetans are there in that building. 제네치스마란 대족이 딱 아주 장가 약부치라나. If we get good number, then we can make rational decisions, not based on assumptions or estimations. And this will be rochers, the cancer ratio Samsung, and then Samologi, Haru Baruchevina, and we can take the Sino-Tibet conflict to a different level. And when you take over, also you will be more confident to do your own things. Thank you. And whenever you think we need more engagement, please do let us know. I'm coming back in June. It can be a bigger group, it can be a smaller group, doesn't matter. And the thing is that we need to communicate, we need to understand each other, then we need to know who can do what. Then only we can work together and push it to a different level. Tuji chena shui.